All right, thanks, Tom. In 1985, my wife and I borrowed a bunch of money to build a house. In 1986, we borrowed a bunch more to buy a financial planning practice. In 1987, the stock market crashed. In 1988, our income plummeted by 50%, but our expenses did not. And I went into depression. And it was like I was in this long, dark tunnel, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Or if there was a light, it was a train barreling down on me. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I got on some depression meds. They made me feel a little bit better, but it didn't change anything. And I remember one night, I think it was in October of '88, I was laying on my bed and I was crying because I wanted to die. But I couldn't do it. I had 2 little children and a wife, and I didn't want to do this to them. Sometime not too long after that, my parents realized how depressed I was, and they came out and they visited us, and they said, "We want to help you out. We'll loan you $50,000 to help you through this." And that's all I needed. Hope. That's what they gave me. They said, "We believe in you, we love you, and we want to help you." And they didn't ask to see our financial statements, which were a mess, or they didn't ask for a plan. How are you going to get out of this mess? They just said, "We love you, and we're going to help." And I share this because this is perhaps the most defining moment of my adult life, where it helped to create in me a passion and a desire to give to others and to help bring hope and opportunity to other people. Now, my parents weren't the only influence for generosity. In fact, from our early days of marriage, Judy would say, "Well, if we have it to give it away, let's give it." And I'm like, "Really?" and she learned that from her mother, who lived with us for the last 20 years of her life, because she literally gave it all away. But she was a real blessing, and part of her legacy to me is the transformative power of generosity. And I also share these stories because we stand on the shoulders of others. And the topic or the title of our presentation is intentional giving, but in many ways, what's happened was not intentional. It just happened, but we learn from it. We grow from it. And so anyhow, after we acquired this business, we began to do our giving through the business. And I calculated, well, if we gave 5% of the gross business revenue, that's approximately equal to 10% of our personal income, so that's our tithe. So, nothing dramatic about that, nothing exceptional. We're just trying to steward what we had. And being a financial planner, I could calculate from a tax perspective, it's better to give through the business than personally. So that's what we did. And then in 2001, Pete Knutson joined us as another partner. And a couple years after that, I began to feel a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that we were doing our personal giving based upon the gross revenue of the company, which included the revenue that Pete was generating. And so we began to change that, and our income had gone up, and so we started to shift our personal giving back to our personal giving, our tithing to our personal giving, and began to make the corporate giving more universal to things that could be supported by all of our employees and staff. And, at the time, I don't think I even thought about, okay, we're going to give more personally, so we should reduce what we give as a business. I don't know why that never crossed my mind. We just kept it at 5%. And so that's the change that we made, and we implemented a matching program and began to give to things that were important to our employees and to our clients. And so there's kind of a shift in mindset there. Now, you may think, well, 5% isn't all that much. You hear of companies giving 10%, but the question is, 10% of what? And usually it's 10% of profits. And I'm not knocking anybody who gives 10% of profits. I think that's great. But 5% of our gross revenue is about 50% of our profits. So if we were just concerned about the bottom line, we could cut out that giving and we would double our profits. But that's not why we give. Never has been. And in fact, we're just a small firm. There's 4 financial advisors located in Lawrence, Kansas. About 80% of our clients are in Lawrence. But over the past 15 years, we have given over $1 million away. And I was a little bit hesitant to share that number with you, but I thought in this context that it would be good because I don't want to put us on a pedestal. I'm not sharing that to somehow lift ourselves up as being something spectacular. But that's a significant amount. And our annual giving budget now is large enough that we can really be strategic with what we do. And we're wrestling or grappling with that. What does it mean to be strategic? Because we now have a fair amount that we can give away each year. A lot of companies, they give just for PR, okay? Or they give out of obligation that, well, we have to give because we need to be looked at as being community-minded. And I suppose at one level, motivation doesn't make a lot of difference, but for us, it does make a difference. And it's not that we don't get any marketing benefit from our giving. We do, but that's not our primary motivation. One of our visions as a company, we have a vision statement, and it is to inspire philanthropy. Well, if you're going to inspire philanthropy, somehow you have to put it out there. So we try to let our light shine in such a way that we can encourage others to give and give more. And so we have on our website, some of the projects we give to, and we have this wall in our office with pictures with our employees and what they're involved in. And so our clients like that. They walk by that. They can feel good about doing business with a company like ours. But we don't do it to flaunt it. People will see through that. If you're just giving for show, they will pick that up. But our clients like it because they know we're genuine. And if you're genuine and you really care, then they'll rally behind you. And let me share with you one story of how we really, that was pivotal in bringing our staff on board and feeling like they're part of what we're doing with our philanthropy. So I think it was 1987, and I visited with Tom and shared with him that I had a burden for India for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid, in fact. And I don't even really know why. Gandhi was a hero, Mother Teresa is a hero, but India just intrigued me. And so I had a burden, and I knew I wanted to do something, but I really didn't know what. I knew I wasn't called to be a missionary there. So, but eventually I kind of worked this through and decided that I wanted to do something holistic, that addressed spiritual and economic, health, education, the whole multifaceted approach. And so I shared that with Tom, and he shared with me information from India Gospel League, which is an indigenous Indian organization, which was important to me. I didn't want us to be, the Western person coming in with the answers. And so IGL had a program called Adopt a Village, which does exactly what I described to Tom that I wanted to do. So Tom and I went over there to India, and IGL showed us around, and we saw firsthand the transformation that had occurred in some of the villages that they worked in. And up to this point in time, it had only been churches that adopted villages. But I said, our company would like to adopt a village. Of course, no good organization turns down money, so they said, okay, we'll let you do it. So we returned home, and shortly thereafter, IGL sent me the profile of 2 villages in India to consider adopting. So we had a staff meeting, and I laid that out on the table, the 2 profiles, and asked them, which one do you want to adopt? And they chose Kanavai Padur. So I said, okay. And I said, and we will take every one of you to visit your village in India. Now, the Adopt a Village program was a 5-year program designed to be self-sustaining after 5 years. And so over the next 5 years, we made 2 trips to India, and we took each employee who wanted to go. For some reason, a couple didn't want to go, but everybody who wanted, we took them there to visit their village. And not only was the village transformed, but this had amazing impact upon the lives of our employees. You know, they felt like they were part of something bigger than just them. And that was very encouraging. And I just want to share one thing, and this will kind of relate back to my earlier story. How do we know that we really transformed the village or had any real impact? And IGL kept lots of statistics and metrics, but the one that stood out to me was before we adopted the village, there was 1 suicide every 2 weeks. And this was in a village of 6,000 people. So that's a lot of despair. At the end of 5 years, there's 1 suicide in 2 years. So there was change that happened. Hope came. Now, the mission statement for McDaniel Knudsen is to help clients increase their capacity to live and to give. And how can we as a company help our clients increase their capacity to give if we're not doing that ourselves? You know, and if our vision is to inspire philanthropy, how can we do that if we're not doing that ourselves? So generosity with McDaniel Knudsen is not just something we do, it's part of who we are. And I hope, and I think I see this coming, a reformation in capitalism. That is, where businesses see themselves as part of a transforming influence upon the world. That they see what they're doing in business has greater impact, whether it's directly in the products and services that they're providing, or whether or not they are setting aside a certain portion of their income or profits to make a difference. And so that's what my vision is for business.